Hello, everyone, and welcome to September's Astro Tarot Deep Dive. I am Murillo. I'm here with Susheela Kundargi. We're going to go through the important dates, important astrological dates of September, along with what the tarot tells us. And so, for those of you who follow us every month, we spoke about what August had in store. And I think that, I think we were pretty spot on. I think that
Yeah.
it brought a lot. It really brought, especially that middle point of August. Uh, there was a lot of fire, a lot of tension. I noticed a lot of breakthroughs. And even with those breakthroughs, this sense of, okay, but now what? Because now I can't unsee what I've seen. So what does that mean? And I think that September takes us in that way. It's almost like we're walking into an unknown and we're
Mm.
still processing a lot of what went down in August. I think September is a month of integration.
Yeah. I'm just realizing too, we've been at this for 2 years. We started 2 years ago in September. So we're coming up to our anniversary time.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's right. I wasn't sure if it was September, October. I thought it was October, but yeah, I guess it's
Yeah, well,
September.
I think we'd started, this would be season 2, episode 12.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. But I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of free space
Hmm.
in September.
Hmm.
And as far as astrological events happening. And so what you're saying about August, those revelations and those deep feelings and not being able to unsee what we've seen, it's like cracking the egg open. And then what do I do with it now? I can't put it back together. I don't want to put it back together. I don't know what to do with this glop right now.
Right.
So as we're going through September, it's like there's even bigger spaces between the things for
Hmm.
us to like sit in it. And it's been painful, I think, for a lot of people. So that cracking open, that level of awareness, it's not
Yes.
easy. It's like, oh, it's like raw and oozing and just like pouring salt on the wound of like, okay, but now what? Now
Right.
what are you gonna do? And so I
Right.
think there's still like a lot of reflection, and we've got like 8 billion planets in retrograde, and one is gonna go direct and another one's gonna take its place. And
Right. Right.
there's a lot of there's there's a lot of like I don't want to say suspense in the way that it's a mystery, but things are suspended in something ethereal at the moment because it is like that. We are entering into this weirdo space that, the end of January we're probably going to be flinging forward again. But we've talked about over the last several months how this period of time we get to recalibrate and revisit and re-envision and all the re-words and see how it feels, see how that new era is going to feel, and did we really want, and do we really think, and is that really something, and all of that business. So and we've got a lot of moon action this month too that we're
Yeah.
talking about because those major astrological things are farther apart to let you sit in the gooey moon vibes.
Well, so much of what I've been describing that Venus retrograde in Leo as is the redefinition of our identity and our ego in this life, right? Venus retrograde, usually it's a redefining of a relationship.
Mhm.
Well, and I've seen that a lot in relationships, but in Leo, Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun rules our identity. anytime we have anything in Leo or it's Leo season, we want to shine in the highest expression of ourselves. But this is a Venus retrograde in Leo. This is, how am I redefining, reshaping the relationship to my identity and my ego? And I think it has been met a lot with, I no longer want to be this way. I no longer want to do things in this way. I no longer want to relate in this way. So, and I think that it's not something that we have volunteered to change. We've come across a lot of pretty hard lessons around that can't continue. You can't continue in that way. So we've had to say, I really need to change. And we realize that when we change, that changes a lot of other things in our lives. And so this is how we're entering September. Today, it's August 30th. We are actually recording on the day of the full moon in Pisces. And so I was telling Susheela before we started recording, my brain feels like mush. I can't get thoughts together and straight. I have felt physically exhausting. But I think what this is doing is, I think that when there's a significant spiritual shift, we underestimate just how much energy that actually takes.
Yeah.
And so we have to remember that. We have to remember that. So we start with September 2nd with the moon in Aries trining Venus retrograde in Leo. So the moon in Aries still full right after that full moon in Pisces. So here we are with a full moon, a lot of emotion, a lot of realizing, I no longer want to be this, a lot of disillusion. I think that there's a lot of disillusion in what we thought or hoped things would be, particularly with others, and they're not. And that trine, that very easeful aspect to Venus retrograde in Leo, this is almost like a full moon illuminating something that has come to the surface in Aries about a new beginning, trining Venus retrograde in Leo. I kind of picture Venus coming beat up out of a battle, and it's like, okay, I'm done. I'm here. And so this start to the month it has a lot of fire. I think there's a lot of intention to move forward in a new way, but we're tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And despite, last month, there was a lot of fire coming up and a lot of air, even though, the elements were different that we were talking about. And this is kind of an example of that. Like, these are very fiery things, but I've got an earthy king here.
Mhm.
But you can see there's a lot of red in the background life force, and he looks really chill because it's, what does all of this stuff teach us but to focus on the practical matters? If we focus on the practical matters with that energy and the energy that we have today of the full moon, that's really going to last for like another 2 weeks until we get that new moon, really. That
Right.
energy is going to be there, and we've got like this energetic layer cake that's been happening since the beginning of March with Saturn. And sorry, buzzing everywhere. This king is like, attend to practical matters. Raise your vibration through the highest expression of practical matters. It's not so much about the mundane practical matters. This is like, put in that extra effort when you're working. Organize yourself even more. Focus on your money. Focus on your how you do things. Revamp. Declutter. Look at your investments. Look at your budgets. Look at your. It's all that kind of stuff, which will make you feel like you're really accomplishing something when emotionally everything is all kind of cuckoo.
And that makes so much sense. I mean, if you think about it, we are in Virgo season. Mercury is retrograde in Virgo. And so that much retrograde energy in the air, if we don't set the intention to ground, we can feel all over the place, and it can feel incredibly overwhelming. And so to not get consumed by that tsunami of the full moon in Pisces, we need to get as practical as possible.
Yeah.
So that moves us on to September 3rd, where Venus finally moves direct at 12 degrees Leo, where she was back in July when Venus went retrograde. And so Venus will station retrograde probably for another week after that. So we'll come out of, we'll start stretching the arms and waking up fully for about 2 weeks. I mean, look, that day, not much happens. I think we have a strong desire for things to go differently, but I don't think that there's still much clarity.
Yeah.
Allow for the days to unfold and move forward to find that clarity. Yeah, and I'll get to that later, but Venus moving direct is already, we can sigh a little bit. We can let out a breath of relief.
Yeah. So we've got another king. I don't think we've had kings up front like this in a month. So we've got now the King of Cups, and he's kind of embodying that energy, just sitting there. There's a lot of water around, there's the emotions. So we just said, focus on the practical stuff. And then this is like centering yourself with your emotions. It's not time to let them out yet. This is just like hold firm, know that you have emotions. Label them if you want to.
Right.
You don't need to share them. You don't need to do anything else with them. Just sit with them. Yeah. So it's it's a steady energy knowing that you're in the home stretch when it comes to that stuff.
Right. On September 4th, Jupiter goes retrograde. Jupiter in Taurus moves retrograde and remains retrograde till December 30th. So pretty much till the end of the year. So this is really interesting because with Venus going direct, there is some clarity in that I can't continue doing life or relationships in that way. I don't have clarity as to how to do it differently.
Yeah.
That's okay. So Jupiter, the planet of luck, expansion, optimism, right, in its highest expression, in Taurus, which actually it's a beautiful energy because Jupiter in Taurus wants us to have all of the things that bring us joy and a sense of luxury and a sense of accomplishment, and it wants us to have money, it wants us to have abundance, but it's going retrograde the day after Venus, the ruler of Taurus, goes direct. So what that tells me, how wise the cosmos are to say, okay, let's slow them down because we do want them to experience abundance and expansion and luck and optimism, but there's just no clarity yet as to how. They don't know how to do that yet. So let's wait for these great riches and abundance and abundance energy to come more so in January, which is, by the way, when Pluto goes direct. So there's so much time the rest of this year that we have to really learn how to be different, I guess.
Yeah, there's buildup. It's I think a lot of the angst that people are feeling is the buildup of something, but they have no idea what. And so there's an inclination to cling to the past. The past is, all those broken eggs. So, walking around bumping into walls because you had a blindfold on.
Right.
Painful. Like, just open your eyes and be like, oh, that's what hit me there, that steel beam sticking out of the brick wall. So the moon, get the moon. And this is really interesting, I find, for that day, because it's not that day. It starts there and it lingers. This is deep emotion. So all the stuff about money, all the stuff about our values, our deepest, what's at the core of our values, what we think of ourselves, that is going to really get examined, and it may not appear to the outside world at all until everything starts moving again. But there's a
Mhm.
lot of deep work under the surface, and that duality. We've got the dark and the light wolf both howling at the moon, and there's this, with this particular card, the fact that she's underwater and that the moon is illuminating, and she's, all the little bubbles are blowing, like she's looking up at it. There's like going into the depths, but still seeing what's up there. There's a little bit of a feeling of the Fool card too, of like sort of taking that leap of faith, like diving in, going into the abyss to see
Mhm.
what's there, to see why it's there, like all of that stuff. And I think it's going to get cleaned out over the next, September through December.
Yeah. I want to mention, because the moon card reminded me of it, for those of you who are creatives, or work for yourselves in some way, have a business, pay attention to how much the Venus retrograde cycle, really from July to September, has prompted you to re-envision your business, your project, how you want to present yourself, all of those things. Because September will be a great month to really begin implementing the things that you've been thinking about and testing them, especially with Mercury retrograde still the first half of the month. And so that Jupiter retrograde in Taurus is, you're in testing time, you're in learning time, and the riches will come. Just give it some time. We're
Mhm.
being given time. I really do think we're being given time here. So if you're feeling impatient, understand that if it's not happening now, that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
So on September 6th, we have the Mercury retrograde Sun conjunction in Virgo. So Mercury retrograde does this every single cycle. In the middle of its retrograde cycle, it meets with the Sun. So Mercury retrograde, the sun illuminates. This is a time where, again, we can begin to test things, begin to start moving forward with things. We don't have to wait for Mercury to come out of its retrograde phase to start moving forward. Just be mindful, because Neptune in Pisces is there and is very activated when we have Virgo energy, that it is a test. And that if you are moving forward with concrete things, if you're signing leases, contracts, whatever it is, that you're really, really still taking your time to read everything through, have someone read something for you, just in case you miss something. But I think that September 6th time, because of that earth energy, can begin to help us move forward, baby
Mhm.
steps.
Yeah. So as you're talking, I'm looking at what this card looks like, and it's like it's getting painted with the words that you're speaking.
Uh-huh.
So talk about illuminating
Mhm.
things. The Seven of Swords, it's often about deception, and um, often people being purposely deceptive.
Mhm.
And when it comes to, a contract or something, the contract is usually like the old school way of doing things, is that the person writing the contract slants it in their favor.
Right.
And you want to be wary of stuff like that. Um,
Mhm.
Double checking, what are the implications of this? Um, but it is moving into that place of light. Stuff is getting exposed. There is like gaining an advantage, taking your time, to sort of see if there is some kind of deception. Is there some kind of hidden information? Am I deceiving myself?
Mhm.
Am I lying to myself?
Mhm.
All of that kind of stuff. So it's like he's just coming up over the crest here, and all the birds and the feathers talk about communication. So it's very much that Mercury retrograde in Virgo again, with the sun illuminating it. I mean, I couldn't draw a better depiction of these two things coming together.
Yeah.
There's that anticipation though of like, mm, don't pull the trigger
Hmm.
until you really know. That's kind of the warning. There's a lot of warnings, I think, with September. Uh, People wanting to, rush things, like you say, wanting to rush
Exactly.
things. Whenever you feel like you're beginning to feel impatient and something's not happening, think instead, what should I be doing?
Hmm. And that is the perfect segue into September 8th, because on that day, we have the Sun in Virgo trine Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. Sun in Virgo. What are my tasks? What are my habits? What's on my calendar? How can I organize myself? How can I take care of those mundane things that you were mentioning earlier? And that very easeful connection to Jupiter retrograde in Taurus is, if I focus on those things now, then I'm creating something sustainable and, truly grounding for the future. And so while there is this kind of spacey energy,
Mhm.
Virgo energy really invites us to focus. What can we focus on? Again, what are my tasks? What are my habits? I think it's a great this anytime we have an emphasis in Virgo energy, it's a really great time to check our habits.
Yeah.
Um, But this, leading up to September 8th, and even after that, it's a calling to, how do I ground myself? What can I do to help this grow? How do I take care of myself?
I'm laughing because the card that we have, I would say it's probably the nicest energy of this card when it shows up. It is the Tower. It is the Tower.
Oh, wow. Okay.
If you don't, if you do not spend the time to do those things right now, it is the perfect opportunity to do them. If not now, when? When everything's already hit the fan and now you're scrambling. I know that's everybody's MO. I mean, we procrastinate, we study at the last minute, all that stuff. But really, this time it's saying don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of that feeling of boredom, you will be pleasantly surprised. I think this is more of a surprise card.
Mm,
If you do the stuff, it's more of a surprise than a catastrophe. If you
mm-hmm.
don't do the stuff, it will translate into something catastrophic months from now. But if
Mm,
you do the thing, if you focus on the stuff, you actually feel really good. And this is a nice energy of like just wiping the slate clean, instead of the patchwork job and the little band-aids, whatever. It's just like, I'm
mm-hmm.
just gonna scrap this pattern, scrap this habit, and I'm just gonna like go. If I could do something effective, this is what it would look like.
Right. And even though I don't know that anything to Saturn really shows up throughout the month, but I just want to remind everyone that Saturn in Pisces is retrograde right now.
Mhm,
Saturn is the ruler also of commitment and discipline and also habits. When Saturn is retrograde, and this is in any sign every single year, when Saturn goes retrograde, we have the opportunity to review what we're building and say, how can I do it better? So during this Mercury retrograde, during this time where everything is airy and spacey up in the air, Saturn is retrograde, and Saturn is in the background.
mhm,
When Saturn goes direct, it's go time. What have you been putting in place that's going to be energetically, supported? So keep
mhm.
that in mind as well. So on September 11th, we have the moon in Leo conjunct Venus in Leo. Okay, so interesting stuff. This is the moon coming together with Venus. Venus is now direct. So this can be a reconciliation. It's a great day for having a conversation. It's a great day for, I mean, if there weren't so many retrograde planets, it'd be like a great day to release something. I think
Yeah.
that you can, do like a soft launch or a soft release or talk about it here and there. It's a great creative energy. So because planets are retrograde, this Venus and Leo is much more, how can I do things in a smaller scale? Or how do I celebrate myself? Or how do I have a conversation with someone where Venus retrograde rocked us? And now we're just coming from a space of like, okay, how do we want to try and make this work out?
Mhm.
My concern with that is that because it's the moon and it's Venus and it's Leo, it can be overly dramatic.
Yeah.
Tone down the drama, come in with love, truly come in with love, and see where that takes you.
This is a really neat card to follow the tower. It is the world.
I love that.
So this talks about expansion and opportunity. So
Mhm.
it's not so much in that moment on that day, but
Right.
it's kind of like pinning a new thing to your vision board,
Mhm.
you know, pinning the destination on your Google Maps. It's you're not getting there today, but it's you've wiped the slate clean. You can go back and look at all the stuff that you've left undone and go, okay, there is an opportunity for this, or there's an opportunity for that, or I'm not going to look at this because it takes away from this amazing expansion that's happening.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not everything is going to be something that you can implement, no
Right.
matter how good an idea it is.
Mhm.
It's again, there's always that practical nature running in the background. Like, how feasible is this? How practical is it? Tempered with all the dreamy woo woo stuff of, magical unicorns thrown into like my business plan.
Right.
It's neither one nor the other. It's a little bit of both in a
Mhm.
in a very slow, steady thing.
Yeah.
But it's got all the potential. This is like all the potential, but don't water down the potential across everything that you have. Put all the potential into something that will be feasible and practical.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because on September 12th, the moon in Leo then goes to create a square to Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So again, Leo, expressive energy, and expressive when we think of creativity or expressing from the heart, expressing from a place of love, beautiful. But it's also expressive in that if you're not grounded, you can see all of the things that you have been bottling up. And that square, that 90-degree angle to Uranus and Taurus can be somewhat explosive, can be, you can come out of nowhere, like expecting the unexpected, especially emotionally. Um, so while it is, those 2 days are, I think, are beautiful for creativity. I think are beautiful for potential conversations that you're not putting a lot of weight on. Because that Uranus, let's say you have a conversation with someone, hey, let's talk about what the last 2 months have been for us. What does this mean?
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, lovey dovey. And then the next day, someone can change their mind.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Uranus. So hold things lightly. And I think what these 2 days are going to bring you is much more information about what you need to focus on and what you truly care about.
Yeah, there's a lot of individual stuff in September. It's sort of like finding your place in the world or finding your place in the collective.
Right.
And you look out there and go, oh, that looks nice. Close the curtains and go doing the thing. And that's really the vibe that I get
Yeah.
for the month. So, well, maybe the next couple of months actually, but the Six of Cups is what I have for that day. And there's a lot of different meanings attached to this card, and there's a feeling of nostalgia.
Mhm.
We tend to look at the past, and it can be the distant past, also, it could be past lives, even. But when you have that feeling of nostalgia, it's always, we tend to look at things in a way that is a little unrealistic, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
Think about like a different period in history and go, oh, it must have been so nice when people didn't have to this and that. It's like, yeah, they're forgetting there was the plague and people had a life expectancy of, 46. And, you although you couldn't go to there was no grocery store, whatever. It's a little bit of that feeling of like not quite in reality of looking at the past.
Mhm.
So, um, and again, the bottling up part too, it's like you may have carried over like, oh, it's fine, everything's fine, this is just fine, time heals all wounds, which is BS, as we all know. You just tend to get preoccupied, and that
Right.
stuff there, it's all there. And it's like, here he's reminiscing about his childhood with this dog, and now he's a full grown man and the dog's this old dog, and it's not quite it's not quite the reality of the situation. It can be really nice and really lovely, but it's in your mind.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that that is something to carry forward. It's like take the elements of it to carry forward. But yeah, that nostalgic feeling can be a little mm, illusory.
And again, such a great segue to September 14th because we have the new moon in Virgo. So, on the one hand, that new moon in Virgo, again, we have to be very mindful of what we're focusing on. I think that the month of September really asks us to focus on what truly matters in order for us to get the most out of this month, not this month, not right now, but later on.
Mhm.
So that new moon in Virgo is made up of a really beautiful grand Earth trine because it's going to touch the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus, and it's going to make a connection to Pluto in Capricorn. So we have that grand Earth trine. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn are activated. Whenever we have a grand Earth trine, it's time to get things done. Get your tasks done. Again, everything we've been saying, get organized, get focused. What are you creating that is sustainable over time? That is going to be your grounding space. And with this much Leo energy is you can be creative in this. It's really beautiful creative energy. Now, that new moon also, I think it's going to be somewhere along like 21, 22 degrees Virgo, is
Mhm.
going to be creating an opposition to Neptune in Pisces. So we are still working with that. On the one hand, again, all the creativity in the world, Neptune and Pisces. I have this idea, Virgo energy. How do I ground it? What do I need to do? What are the steps? Da-da-da-da. On the other hand, if you're still stuck on all of the Venus retrograde drama, this is just you putting on those rose colored glasses and saying, no, it's fine. To your point, it's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine. It's fine. They're okay. They changed, even though, they're doing the same things, but, they've changed.
But it's a
So,
Tuesday, not a Saturday, so it's different, right?
right. So I think that one of the things that August showed us is just how much we do create our reality, and we're
Mhm.
really seeing the consequences of our actions
Yeah.
and how we take responsibility for them. And that's going to continue in September.
Well, look at her face. Let's say it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's sitting there, 4 cups. She has the same old 3 cups. Really hard to envision. I'm doing all the work.
Mhm,
I'm not
mhm.
seeing any results. I don't know if it's going anywhere. I don't know. I don't know. And she's so focused on what isn't happening because it's not there yet. She doesn't have the faith. You have to have the faith to know that there's this offer over here of the magical rainbow bowl being presented. It's just not there yet. So there's
Mhm.
that, you have to take a leap of faith in that knowing the stuff that you are doing now differently than the way you did it in the past is quite likely the better way, the right way, which you can still tweak as you go when you get feedback. Don't assume that not seeing results now is the feedback. That is not the feedback.
Right.
Keep going, keep going. It's like attached to your beliefs, all that stuff, all the space between the aspects, the stuff that you know, the stuff you want to feel, the stuff you don't want to feel, the person you want to be. You just have to keep going. And then eventually something shows up.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to get grumpy and discouraged and like nothing's happening, nothing's showing up.
And I also want to add that this new moon in Virgo actually opens up eclipse season. Yay! As if we haven't had an interesting summer or an interesting August.
Not at
This
all.
this new moon in Virgo opens eclipse season. Now, eclipses don't happen till October, but October will be a month of 2 eclipses. So that's going to be an interesting forecast to report. But
Mhm.
what this means, the opening of eclipse season, is that it's yet another karmic time. It's yet another time where, to Susheela's point, having faith. Really, eclipse season marks a time in which that veil thins. And I
Yeah.
think that happened very much in August. There was a thinning of that veil. And so while it can discombobulate the human in us, I think it's spirit, the universe, cosmos saying, learn how to walk with this energy, learn how to walk with this faith in something greater and in yourself. So September 15th, Mercury comes out of retrograde direct in Virgo. And so this is, I think, where we're going to begin. We're not going to see results just yet, but I think we're going to begin feeling much more confident in moving towards things. We're going to say, this is where I think we're going to begin to get that feedback that you're talking about. And it's going to be for a few months, but if you're proactive with what matters, if you're proactive with what you know is going to help you grow, this Mercury going direct in Virgo, it's almost like it's going to line you up with the things that you need to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I've got a very nice card here where the Knight of Pentacles. This is the card of slow, steady movement towards something that is deeply satisfying, whether that's, your financial forecast for the next year, your prosperity, your relationships, your health, your gym routine, whatever it is. This is this very slow, applied, steady movement. This is the slowest moving knight in the deck, but it is definitely the most grounded. The knight of integrity, loyalty, predictability in a sense, reliability. And it's going slow because that's the manageable pace. Anything beyond that is not going to do it. So this is a little sign that you are on the right track, one foot in front of the other. You are gaining traction. It is not speeding up, though. You still have to walk the distance.
Right.
And with a horse on grass, as I may have mentioned in the past, is not a quick It is not a quick process. They want to stop and eat the grass the whole way there. If you wanted to go quick, he'd be on the back of the horse just going. So it's not steady. No, we're going to just take it all in this way.
Yeah. So this is interesting because on September 16th, we have a Moon Mars conjunction in Libra. So anytime that there is a Moon Mars conjunction, We can be very erratic, very emotional, very, we can jump to conclusions. It can also, represent anger. But
Mhm.
in Libra, this is interesting because we start amping up with Libra energy, and Libra season is going to be very important because we're going to have the first eclipse in Libra that we've
Mhm.
had in 9 years, but that's not going to happen till October. But it's important to start paying attention to that. So a moon Mars conjunction in Libra can feel like I'm so angry, but I'm not going to express it. And so
Mhm.
therefore that's going to build up and create resentment. Um, I really want to do this, but I'm still just weighing the pros and cons. Um, that's not fair, right? Libra has so much to do with fairness and what we consider fair and how we think others should treat us fairly.
Yeah.
And getting our feelings hurt very easily because, the world is not necessarily fair all the time, at least according to our definition of it. So it is a moon aspect, so it'll go by quickly, but it's important to jot it down in your calendar. Pay attention to what comes up. Pay attention to how you notice yourself reacting and how you notice others reacting, because it is an aspect of reactivity.
Mhm. Well, I think the Libra aspect is the more positive side of that whole conjunction.
Yeah.
The Ace of Pentacles is the first sign of something, like the first sign of growth, the first sign of a sum of money, the first sign of interest. We always think of the Ace of Cups when it comes to love, like the first love or a new love, but this is something more tangible. So again, even though, we've been saying this like the whole month of this practical Virgo stuff, we have
Mhm.
that Libra in there. It adds some kind of balance to it. It gives you that opportunity to, if I want to change, then how am I doing this the same way? If I'm not expressing myself, if I'm not taking control of my emotions, if I'm bottling everything up, these are not conducive to attaining the world. We have that world card,
Right.
the surprises that show up instead of catastrophes.
Hmm.
This coin it's beginning to have some roots and some new growth there. It is a really positive card. So it's inviting you to say, like, put your money where your mouth is, of like, if I really want to do this and I want to change the way my reality is shaped, then I need to do it differently. And this is the
Hmm.
opportunity to do that. It's
Hmm.
again the first step in it that begins to shift. It's like beginning to turn the wheel, beginning to like put the foot on the gas pedal. Like it's that all the initiating steps. So if I'm initiating things and I want a different outcome, why would I do it the same way?
Right. I think September has so much potential that if
Yeah.
we focus again on things that, you know, are sustainable over time or will come to fruition over time, we will look back on September a few months from now, 6 months from now, perhaps, and say, I'm really glad I did that then.
Hmm.
And it's going to keep you from going back to old things that don't serve you, getting distracted by nonsense. Truly, I think September is just a more grounded month. I think August was about feeling all the feels, things breaking apart. And September, we can have some sense of some healing by focusing on really what matters, by putting our attention somewhere intentionally.
Yeah, I think the t-shirt for the month of September would be stop focusing on the nonsense.
Right, exactly. Yes. Okay, September 17th, we have Venus in Leo square Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. So this isn't the first time that Venus in Leo squares Jupiter in Taurus. It Venus has been doing that since about June. So before retrograde, during retrograde, and now direct again.
Mm.
So anytime there is an aspect of, especially a square aspect, a 90-degree aspect, an aspect of tension that catalyzes change between Venus and Jupiter, uh, it is, on the one hand, it can be, there is no limit, going to extremes, exaggerating. So swiping the credit card for $10,000 on one thing, right, that we weren't counting on. It can really go into a state of exaggeration. Now, on the other hand, because this is about the third time that Venus squares Jupiter, this can be a little bit of something coming to fruition, something that we started back in June. Now we have an answer, something that may have been delayed then. Now we have an answer. It catalyzes an action, some kind of answer. Remember, Mercury is now direct. So this can catalyze some kind of answer and forward movement. It's also great energy for creativity, especially because Jupiter is retrograde.
Mhm. We have the Eight of Cups. And traditionally, this card is about walking away from something, turning your back on something, leaving something behind. Um, Focus on the fact that there is the sun. She is walking into the sunset or sunrise. There is light on the horizon. Leaving the thing behind is this, bowl with looks like fire and fireflies and I don't know what all sitting there, but it's almost like an offering. It's like you may have put a lot of effort into something and have the discernment to say, okay, doesn't matter how much time, money, effort, heart I put into this, my future is over here. And it's not being fickle, not going, this didn't work. I'm going to just blow it up and walk away. Like, your credit card example, like,
Right.
I'm not feeling like this. So I'm just going to splurge on a whatever, something way beyond my capacity to repay it.
Right.
This is not an impulsive throw your hands up in the air and walk away. This is a carefully considered, I don't want this anymore. I want that over there. My higher self has been focusing on this. I thought this was that, but it's not over there. And it's a very confident walk. She's not running. She's got her shoulders up straight. She's flowing. The wind is blowing. This is forward movement, energy. Like I'm going this way. I'm trying it out.
Yeah. That that it's important to understand that a big part of the reason that Venus retrograde in Leo, invited us to consider our relationship to our ego is not so that we just say, I suck as a human being. But I think that the biggest reason is that when we question our ego and when we distance ourselves a little bit from this humanhood, we realize that there is a higher self, that there is a higher power, that there is something, that there is universal intelligence, that when we tap into it, we become pretty powerful co-creators of our life. So much so that in a way that just the human mind can't fully comprehend, because the human mind is pretty limited. So I say that because on September 21st, we have the sun in Virgo trine Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. So this is still this trine between the sun in Virgo and Pluto in Capricorn really starts with that new moon in Virgo of September 14th, which is just the week before. So a week later, we have an exact trine between the sun in Virgo trine Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. This is, again, a lot of earth energy. What am I building? What am I focusing on? And most importantly, which is Virgo's gift, being discerning about what am I giving my time, energy, and attention to? Being discerning about, is this a desire of the ego of the soul? Being discerning about, when is my ego getting in the way and when can I connect? with universal intelligence, spirit, whatever you want to call it. Because Pluto retrograde in Capricorn is also allowing us to take a step back and discern that higher self from those shadow parts and
Mhm.
not condemn the shadow parts, but recognize them when they're coming up. Oh, wow.
Oh la la. So we have the Lovers, and it's a very steamy, lusty looking card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all that red, that's all life force. It's passion. It doesn't have to be about love or sex. What is your passion? Why did you choose to become a human in this time? Not because it's easy, that's for sure.
Right. Oh
Not
my
just
God.
sail through and learn the easy lessons. No,
Right.
this is a card of choices,
Mm.
dualities. It can be the choices, it can be relationship choices, but it can also be the dualities within ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, who we align with, what we align with. There's that reflection that, oh, I'm receiving this. What am I putting out there?
Mhm. Mhm.
So we've been waiting for some kind of feedback. This is a little bit of feedback, but it's still more about the choices.
Yeah.
Um, what was that John Lennon song, Instant Karma? You actually get to go, ooh, the stove is hot. You have a choice. It's not an automatic thing. Are you going to be stupid and touch the stove again? Or are you going to go, oh, the stove is red, it's hot, I won't touch it again? Learn that.
Right.
That's a little bit about what this is, but it goes back to you as your higher self embodied as a human, what it is. What did you want to learn here? Are you learning it?
Mhm.
Huh? Are you learning it? Like, it's not nudging us. I think that's why there's so much space this month, because if we didn't have that space, I think September would just pummel us.
Yes.
And we wouldn't be able to like sit back and process any of the stuff. So
Mhm.
it's like something shows up and we get boom, 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 boom. Oh, yeah.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, process, process, process. Get up next day, 5 days later.
Right. Right.
So that Lover's card is really about the choices, like the choices I make now, the choices I've made in the past. Where does that bring me? In whatever areas, and probably a whole pile of areas.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Earth energy, and that's a very earth day, September 21st, always calls for a maturing and a growing up, especially when Capricorn is involved there. And so, because Pluto is retrograde, these aren't lessons that we're seeing for the first time.
No.
These aren't things that we're dealing with for the first time. These have been ongoing things with Pluto. Our shadow, we've functioned purely from our shadow for a long time. And these are the consequences. Now, how do we transmute that into wisdom so that we make different decisions?
Yeah.
This is so important because September 23rd begins Libra season. So we're, getting closer and closer to that uh, eclipse season in October, obviously. But this Libra season is going to be intense. I think it's going to be very direct. Um, I think this Libra season, especially after that Venus retrograde in Leo, we're going to be making some significant decisions, not just romantic relationships, but especially romantic relationships.
Mhm.
And so, yeah.
Interesting. We have the Hangman. It is, it's typically a pause, something that we didn't initiate,
Mhm.
some pause from our environment, that we have to look at things differently. but it's following that theme. It's like we have to look at things differently. It's not even that we have to, that we don't have an option.
Right.
Things are being exposed. Things look different. There's different information, different lenses, different lighting, whatever it is, things look different, and you can't go back to seeing them how they were. It would take way more effort to go backwards than forward. And the forward is just uncomfortable because it's unknown, but it doesn't take as much effort.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what people, if they need a reason to move forward and not backwards, backwards is way more effort. It's not
Yeah.
easy anymore.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, she's got wicked shoes on too. I'm always drawn to. But she's seeing things that she wouldn't normally see because she's in the position that she's in.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's all these runes, mulling around in there. That's like fate, there's like creating your own fate, playing with fate a little bit, or finally, realigning with your fate by putting yourself in a different position.
Well, I find it interesting that there was a lover's card and then there was the hangman, because to me, now that I have that information, what I'm drawing into Libra season. So I'm going to give everyone a little bit of a heads up. The eclipses in Aries Libra, because it is the axis of relationship in the zodiac, there is going to be this element of people who come into our lives truly being fated into our lives, especially during eclipse season. And those that come out of our lives is because those lessons are done with them. That chapter is done. So lots of shift in relationship. I feel that hangman also says, if you're willing to wait and be patient, can you wait to see what October brings you, especially in terms of love? And I think that hangman Libra season is just wait, just wait. And that takes us into September 25th, where Mercury in Virgo is trining Jupiter retrograde in Taurus. Again, earth energy. So we get a lot of this drama energy, a lot of fire, a lot of air, and in there is a lot of earth energy. And it's like, okay, this is exciting, but come back to earth. This is exciting, but come back to earth. September 25th, Mercury, now direct in Virgo, trine Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, to me just calls again, what are you focusing on? Where is your focus going? Again, what are your habits? What are your routines? What does your calendar look like? Focus on things that will help you grow over time.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're really going to like the progression, adding the third card to this. So we have the lovers, then the hangman, and then the empress. So that progression, if it's foreshadowing what's coming in October, this is like when you're talking about relationships and you're talking about, let's say, the soulmate cycle that we're currently in.
Mhm.
This is the divine feminine, which has been more of the, if you're looking at twin flames and the runner and the chaser or whatever, most of the runners have been the divine masculine and the chasers have been the divine feminine. So the empress energy versus the emperor. And it doesn't matter what gender the people are, but it's that energy. And to embody this energy for real, one of my biggest pet peeves is that everybody's a goddess. Everybody who's not with the patriarchy is somehow embracing their whatever. And it drives me nuts because you actually have to do the thing. You can't just, there's like no greater sense of entitlement to say, oh, I'm born in this era, or I'm born in as this, so therefore I am. It's like you
Mhm.
actually have to do the stuff to
Mhm.
embody the energy of the Empress. This is the
Mhm.
energy of all the queens put together,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
all the elements. It's not just sitting there doing nothing.
Right.
It's like doing something on a massive scale. This isn't child's play. This is like major, conducting an orchestra here, like on a spiritual, meaningful level. So it's not light energy. It is very potent energy. It requires focus and attention. And I mean, she's giving birth to the world here. I mean, that's a bit over the top, but that's the thing. It's not just, you know, any old thing. This is not the person sitting on the couch being a couch potato going, I'm the divine feminine. That's not it. It
Right.
it involves focus and attention and alignment, conducting yourself in a certain way. You
Yeah.
don't just accidentally become the empress. To
Mhm.
that energy is really exalted.
I think that um there's there's an evolution of the Empress. I think the Empress has to go through a journey to really become that Empress, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about, again, it's almost impossible, especially in Libra season, to not talk about Venus retrograde in Leo. It's almost impossible. I mean, Venus is the ruler of Libra. Think about everything that you've been through just during Venus retrograde in Leo alone. That's
Yeah.
not even including, what you've been through before. And there is a sense of not taking yourself too seriously, but there is a sense of taking what you've been through seriously and honoring it and saying, I've been through some stuff and I've really done something about it. I've really tried to grow and go within and try and understand. There's something about holding that with respect and reverence because the Empress does do that. So I think that earth energy
Mm.
is about that, is about self recognition in that way.
Well,
Um,
and it is actually to be recognized as opposed to
mhm,
wallowing in the place of I've been through all the stuff.
right.
But then, as you say, how are you going to do something different?
hmm hmm So that takes us to September 29th, where we have a full moon in Aries at 6 degrees Aries. So if you all recall, we had two new moons in Aries this year. We had a new moon in Aries that was not an eclipse at 0 degrees Aries, right at the beginning of that spring equinox. And
Mhm.
then we had a new moon eclipse, a solar eclipse in Aries at 29 degrees Aries, April 20th, I believe. April 19th, April 20th, something like that. Now, this is the full moon in Aries that culminates that period of time, which was around March, April. A lot of stuff that started then will be coming to fruition now. But this is at 6 degrees Aries. It's within the first 10 degrees of the zodiac sign. It's very young. There is something very new about this. There's something, we're very new at this path that we're on right now. And so this full moon, obviously the ruler of Aries is Mars. Mars at the time will be still in Libra and it's going to be conjunct the South Node. This is so important because anytime we have a Mars South Node conjunction, it represents a significant shift in direction in our life. It
Mhm.
represents a pivot. And in Aries, it can be like, well, not this anymore, going that way, whatever that means to you. So, and if I remember correctly, pretty sure I do, Venus in Leo will be trining the North Node in Aries. So, Venus will have a really favorable connection to the North Node. Yes, I'm growing and going in a different direction. South Node in Libra, Mars in Libra during this full moon is saying,
Mhm.
I'm pivoting. It's a powerful full moon.
Yeah. So we have Five of Pentacles. When you talk about a young energy, this is that the same thing we've been saying all month, kind of culminating on that full moon of I've been through so much. Everything sucks. Why isn't it here yet? Everything I've lost. This is a card of poverty and loss, of doing with less.
Mhm.
But there's this gigantic key there, which, she's all dressed up and nowhere to go, party girl. And there's a key that can let her into the cool place, but she's so busy just going, I got a blister and can't. So that, okay, you can acknowledge that feeling for a moment. It is a full moon after all.
Right. Right.
There's always a little bit of woe is me wallowing in the depths, but then dust yourself off and look, there's a key to go through the door. And I
Mhm.
think that go through the door is walking into the future. I mean, we've got repeating messages this whole month about leaving the past behind, looking at the pain, looking at the shifts, looking at what's available, deciding to never go backwards. Take the stuff, take the lessons, take the good things, pack it up and go. And there's a lot of gold here in this card, which is there's something being illuminated, something shining, even though there's not much there.
Mhm.
It's shining a light on what is there. She's got the nice clothes on, there is a key, but she's focused on the loss. She's focused on what's been taken. She's basically hiding her head in the sand,
Yeah.
or in her lap or whatever. But that's it. So there's that chance. Are you going to continue to feel that way beyond that full moon, or are you just going to process this? Just
Mhm.
process it and wake up.
I think if there's anything that the fire signs of the zodiac remind us of is you're allowed to be really angry and throw a fit and do the things, but if you know any fire signs, they get over it really quickly.
Yeah.
They just need their moment. They just need their moment, and then they're like, okay, about my day. Um, so look, this full moon, I get the feeling will feel kind of like an eclipse because there's so much activation of the nodes going on. And there are messages that are not new to us. So let's say that you were invited into something new between March and April during that eclipse season. And you hesitated, you were unsure, or it felt too new, too scary. I think this is something that's really going to push you forward. And because it's a full moon and we're in eclipse season, something might be removed from your life in order for you to say that's no longer an excuse. Right. So kind of excited for that one. So I have a Mars in Aries at 5 degrees. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, mine is too, actually. Not
Oh,
degrees, but my Mars is in Aries. Yeah.
okay. Yeah. And finally, September 30th, again, here we went, Earth energy, fire, full moon. We end with Earth energy. Mercury in Virgo, trine Uranus in Taurus. So a Mercury Uranus connection is we have Uranus, who is the genius uncle, and Mercury, who is the young nephew trying to learn. Very brainy type of energy. I love it. Spark for ideas, maybe not new ones, but perhaps if you've already been creating a plan, oh, maybe it'll be better this way. Or you have a conversation where someone offers something that you haven't thought about. And you're like, oh, that's such a great idea. Maybe you should talk to this person, or maybe you should do this, use this color. I love this energy. It's brainy, but it's still grounded. It's earth energy. Be open. Also be open to, because anytime we have Mercury and Uranus connections, last minute changes or last minute invitations, aha moments. I like that ending to the month, and I like these very strong statements of earth energy throughout the month.
Well, we have a very nice card. It is the High Priestess, and it is more of that information coming to light. Knowing what you know, even though you don't know how you know it. It's a lot of intuition. You know, we're
Right.
so used to um having facts, and I think we're getting to the place where we can't even tell what's fact anymore because everything is artificial.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
at some point we have to go down to the basics and know what we know. Even as a small child, as an infant, we knew without being able to give it words, this is right or this is wrong.
Mhm.
This feels good, this feels bad.
Mhm.
I am hurt, I am happy. So
Mhm.
that intuition, that connecting with this energy, it's very creative. It's probably a lot of downloading. It's a lot of um, that knowing, deep knowing without over analyzing
Mhm.
kind of feel.
Mhm.
So it's a very nice feeling. You probably feel more like you know what the hell's going on again, even without knowing what what that is. Like there will be that feeling by the end of the month.
And that earth energy is what reminds you to trust yourself. Because even though earth signs in the zodiac are very much about the material world, this human world, earth energy is very wise. Earth energy represents wisdom that has been carried from ancestry. So
Yeah.
when you have connections like that ground earth trine, like, these trines between Virgo and Taurus and Capricorn, all of that, it's also about the tapping into that wisdom. But it's a very, again, no nonsense, no BS wisdom.
Hmm.
You know, it's not dreamy. It's not, I'm just going to dream up a dream. No, there's a knowing there.
Yeah.
So you can trust it, especially if you use the month of September to really focus on the things that matter.
Hmm. And so, just in case anybody's feeling like, oof, this is a month where, I have to wait to the end, the last day of September to feel anything good. I actually used a different deck to just sort of pull out three cards that
I love that.
m- might give us a higher perspective over the big picture events. So I have these. We got the Stargazer. I think I pulled this for you specifically before.
Good
Set
memory. Yeah.
your sights higher. Well, because it reminds me of an astrologer, so it's easy to remember. Set your sights higher. So let's say that that's the first step. You feel too bogged down. Set your sights higher. Oh, I can only achieve this. No, set it even higher than that. Aim really high. Then it says, enjoy growth and reap the rewards. Okay, so there is growth. Focus on what's working. Put more effort into that. And then we get mountains. Stand your ground. Stand your ground. You don't know what to do. Hold firm. Hold firm and wait. Keep focused on the big picture in that direction.
Hmm.
So it's good. When I was shuffling the cards for these, for the main tarot deck, the main tarot layout, two cards flew out that don't fit anywhere either. And they were Strength and the Four of Wands, which again feels like we need the courage here. We need the strength. We need the courage because there's this like 11:11 party time. The universe has your back down the road. This is that month of it's not quite hibernation, but it's definitely introspective.
Hmm. Hmm. I feel it's a great month to create things.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that you want to create, and if you are not a creative per se, it's really it's a great time to, you know, I don't know, get into some kind of fitness routine or a different some kind of meal plan. And I'm saying these things because all of these things have to do with Virgo energy and about taking care of the body and the self. So if there's nothing else, how do you come back to yourself and say, what do I need? How do I need a rebound or a cleansing or something, whatever it is?
Yeah.
but there is a focus of calling back to what matters. And there's, when it comes to health, that's pretty important.
Yes. Mhm. Hear my black cat walking behind me, agreeing with you.
Are you done? It's been quite some time. All right.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks everyone to sticking with us for 2 years. And yeah, continue to like, share, and subscribe. And we're very grateful to have you here always.
Yeah, thank you all so much. It hasn't felt like 2 years. It's so fun. So thank you all.